Under the veil of darkness, Captain Leo Hart and his resistance team crouched in the shadow of the towering supply depot. Their breaths, visible in the crisp night air, were the only signs of their presence. "Sync watches," Leo whispered, his voice barely audible over the gentle hum of the depot's security drones. "We have 7 minutes before the next patrol." His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the high-perimeter wall for the slightest anomaly in the routine of their oppressors. Beside him, Rika, the team's tech specialist, tapped at her wrist device, disabling the nearest drone with a pulse of silent code. "Paths clear," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the flickering hologram projected from her device. The team moved with practiced precision, shadows blending into shadows, until they reached the heart of the depot. Stacks of energy cells, vital for their base's survival, lay secured behind a coded lock. "Tyron, you're up," Leo said, nodding toward the burly figure at his side. Without a word, Tyron knelt, his deft fingers dancing over the lock's keypad. Seconds ticked by, each one stretching infinitely in the tense silence. The lock clicked open, a soft sound of victory. They quickly filled their satchels with the precious cells, the weight of their success growing with each second. Suddenly, the calm shattered like glass. Alarms blared, slicing through the quiet as piercing lights swept the area. "Ambush!" Leo roared, drawing his blaster. "Move out!" Gunfire erupted as they dashed toward the exit, the thrill of the heist turning into a desperate fight for survival. Each blast from Leo's weapon marked their fierce refusal to be caged again by the regime's tyranny. Back at the resistance base, a cavernous hideout carved into the mountains of Turin, Leo's team dispersed among the familiar stalactites. Medical officers tended to the few with injuries, while the rest of the team debriefed over the night's exploits. Leo leaned against the cool stone wall, reviewing the mission's footage on a portable screen. His second-in-command, Mira, approached with a look of both relief and concern etched on her face. "That was too close, Leo." "We didn't anticipate the patrol's advanced timing," she said, her voice a low blend of frustration and fatigue. He nodded, his gaze fixed on the screen. "The regime is tightening security faster than we anticipated. We need to adapt our strategies accordingly." Around them, the base thrummed with subdued energy. Engineers worked diligently on the newly acquired energy cells, integrating them into the base's power grid. Every operational cell meant more hours of heat, light, and life. Mara, the enigmatic new recruit, lingered on the fringes of the activity. Her contribution tonight had been crucial, yet her presence ignited whispers. Leo caught her eye, motioning her over. As she approached, her posture both rigid and poised, Leo studied her. "You performed well tonight, Mara. Your skills are exceptional, but trust needs to be earned here, just like everyone else," he stated plainly. Mara met his gaze, her eyes shimmering with a blend of resolve and an unreadable intensity. "I understand, Captain, and I'm not going anywhere." "The regime took too much from me to back down now," she replied, her voice steady and resolute. Mara stood slightly apart from the bustling activity of the resistance base, her keen eyes missing nothing. Leo observed her from a distance, noting the careful way she engaged with both the technology and the people around her. Despite her evident skills, her enigmatic past cast a shadow of doubt among the ranks. Rika approached Leo, her voice a discreet whisper. "She's talented, I'll admit that." "Cracked the regime's encryptions faster than any of us could have," she confessed, casting a wary glance toward Mara. "But do we truly know where she came from?" Leo pondered this, his gaze lingering on Mara. "Keep an eye on her. We can't afford any mistakes, not with stakes this high." Across the room, Mara sensed the scrutiny and approached them, her stride exuding confidence. "You don't trust me," she observed, stating it as a fact rather than a question. "Trust is earned in our line of work," Leo responded, devoid of malice. "You've got skills we need, that's undeniable. But skills don't equate to loyalty." Mara nodded, her face an unreadable mask. I was a communications engineer for the regime, she disclosed, her tone steady. I witnessed things, overheard things, things that would make your skin crawl. I couldn't stomach it any longer. Her confession resonated through the air, laden with the gravity of her past. I want to make amends, Mara persisted. I might not be able to undo what's been done, but I can help prevent it from happening again. Leo studied her intently, searching for any hint of deceit. Finding none, he nodded slowly. All right, Mara. You'll continue to work with Rika on our tech. Just remember, we're keeping an eye on you. Mara met his gaze squarely. I wouldn't expect anything less, she replied, a faint smile gracing her lips as she turned to join Rika at the tech station, poised to demonstrate her value. The base hummed with life and quiet tension, united by a shared purpose, until the early hours of the morning when disaster struck without warning. Alarms blared suddenly, slicing through the calm like a sharp blade. Leo sprang from his makeshift bed, seizing his weapon as he sprinted toward the source of the chaos. Report! He barked into his communicator, weaving through disoriented rebels. It's a full-scale assault, Captain. Terran's voice crackled over the line. They've found us somehow. Regime troops are breaching the east sector. As Leo reached the command center, a holographic map pulsed with red indicators, showing their perimeter swarming with enemy forces. Mira was already there, coordinating the defense, her expression etched with grim determination. How did they find us? Leo demanded, his mind racing through possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. Mira shook her head, her voice laden with frustration. I don't know, but our bigger problem is that they're cutting through our defenses too quickly. Outside, the sound of gunfire intensified, a harsh echo of their sanctuary under siege. Leo scanned his team, their faces a tapestry of fear and resolve. We need to evacuate. Get as many as we can to the secondary site, Leo decided swiftly. Mira, organize the retreat. I'll cover the rear with whoever's left. As they began the evacuation, Mara pulled Leo aside, her expression fraught with intensity. This attack was too precise, Leo. It's as if they knew exactly where to hit us. You need to consider the possibility of a traitor among us. Leo's heart sank at her words, the sting of betrayal sharper than the threat of defeat. He nodded tightly, his trust in his team frayed. Keep that in mind as you help with the evacuation. We're not just fighting the regime tonight, he responded, his voice heavy with the weight of command. With that, he turned and plunged into the fray, each step laden with the burden of leadership and the agony of potential betrayal. The night air thrummed with the sounds of battle, a grim symphony accompanying their desperate retreat. In the dimly lit command center of the secondary base, the air was dense with tension. Leo, his expression etched with stern lines, observed as the survivors of the assault assessed their losses. Mara approached him, her face marked by solemnity. You were right, Leo confessed quietly, his voice hushed to prevent others from overhearing. It appears we were betrayed from within. Mara nodded, her eyes a mosaic of mixed emotions. What's our next move, Captain? Before Leo could answer, Rika approached, her usual poise overtaken by urgency. We've managed to trace the source of the leak, she declared, her handheld device flickering with encrypted data streams. It wasn't merely a breach of technology. Someone manually compromised our security protocols. A surge of anger flashed through Leo, but he quickly composed himself. Do we have a suspect? Not yet, Rika responded, her fingers flying over the device. But I'll uncover them. First, we must secure our systems. As Rika set to work, Leo turned to Mara. Now, more than ever, I need your expertise, he stated, his trust in her skills now surpassing his initial hesitations. Can you assist Rika in fortifying our defenses? Mara's reply was prompt and resolute. Absolutely, Captain. You'll have your fortress. Together, the two women delved into the network of data, their skilled hands navigating through codes and firewalls, a ballet of digits and determination. Leo watched them for a moment, struck by the irony of fostering trust amidst betrayal, before he moved to motivate the rest of his team. With their defenses temporarily shored up, Leo convened a strategy meeting to plan their counterattack against the regime. The atmosphere was electric with a mix of anxiety and determination as he laid out their new objective. "We hit them where it hurts," Leo declared, indicating the holographic map aglow on the table. "Their communications hub on Delcor. Neutralizing it will disrupt their operations and give us the breathing room we need." Mara, now an integral member of the team, added, "The hub is heavily guarded and protected by a biometric access system. I can bypass it, but we'll need a perfect distraction to mask our entry." "I'll lead the diversion," volunteered Terran, his voice rough but resolute. "Supply us with the fireworks, and we'll create your opening." As they solidified the plans, Rika approached Leo with an update. "I've narrowed down the suspects for the leak," she murmured, handing him a list. Leo's gaze fell on the names, his heart heavy as he recognized one belonging to a trusted aide. With no time to dwell on the betrayal, he focused on the task at hand. "Let's move out," he commanded, his voice firm, masking his inner turmoil. Hours later, under the cloak of darkness, Leo's team neared the heavily fortified hub on Delcor. Mara and a small infiltration squad, clad in stealth gear, advanced toward the main terminal while Terran and his team initiated a series of decoy attacks along the perimeter defenses. Inside the hub, Mara's fingers danced over the holographic interface. "Almost there," she whispered, the screen pulsing under her skilled manipulations. Outside, the clamor of battle intensified, but Mara's focus never wavered. With a triumphant click, she breached the final security layer. "We're in," she announced, a grin of victory cutting through the tension as their plan surged toward success. As the resistance fighters secured the communications hub, a sudden stillness enveloped the team. Mara, standing at the central console, was confronted by a live feed that revealed a shocking sight. Her father, a high-ranking official within the regime, his face a mask of rage and surprise. "Mara," he gasped, recognition dawning on his features. "What have you done?" Mara's hands trembled slightly, yet her voice remained steady. "Ending what you started," she replied, her gaze unwavering from the screen. Her father's voice grew harsh. "You're betraying your own people, your own blood." "I am saving them from you," Mara retorted, the bitterness of years tainting her words. "From your tyranny." Leo, who stood beside her, noted the shift in her demeanor and placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. "Mara, you don't have to face this alone," he said softly. With a nod of gratitude, Mara turned back to the console. "This ends now." She initiated the command sequence that would permanently disable the hub, effectively severing the regime's communication lines across several systems. Her father's pleas escalated to threats as he grasped her intentions. But before he could act further, Mara cut the feed, silencing him indefinitely. As the screens went dark, Mara exhaled deeply, the burden of her actions settling in. "It's done," she declared to the room, her voice carrying a blend of relief and melancholy. Leo stepped forward, addressing the team. "Let's move out. This victory is just the beginning." They departed the hub, leaving behind the echoes of a tyranny on the brink of collapse. With the communications hub disabled, chaos erupted within the regime's ranks. Capitalizing on the confusion, Leo rallied his forces for a full-scale assault. The resistance fighters, fueled by their success at Delcor, approached the battlefield with renewed vigor. As they drew near the regime's stronghold, the ground trembled under the march of both the resistance and tyrant forces. Leading the charge, Leo scanned the horizon where Overlord Xerx's army awaited, a formidable line of defense bristling with advanced weaponry. "Today, we fight not just for our freedom, but for the freedom of every oppressed being in this galaxy," Leo shouted, his voice booming over the din of assembling troops. His call was met with a roar of approval that thundered across the plains. The battle erupted with a fury. Energy blasts illuminated the sky, creating a deadly light show above the battlefield. In the thick of it, Leo deflected incoming fire and directed his forces with unerring precision. Amidst the chaos, he spotted Overlord Xerx, unmistakable in the ornate armor of a regime commander, directing his troops with a tactical acumen that made him a formidable adversary. Determined, Leo pushed through the melee to confront him. Their eyes met across the battlefield, silently acknowledging the final showdown that awaited. With a nod to his squad, Leo advanced. The clash between Leo and Xyrix was monumental. Blows were exchanged with brutal force, each parry a test of their resolve. "You underestimate the spirit of those you oppress," Leo grunted, dodging a vicious strike. "And you underestimate the power of the regime," Xyrix retorted, his voice as cold as steel. The battle raged around them, but in that moment their duel felt like the eye of the storm, a pivotal confrontation on which the fate of many hinged. Suddenly, an explosion nearby sent a shockwave through the area, momentarily distracting Xyrix. Seizing the opportunity, Leo landed a decisive blow, knocking the Overlord to the ground. Standing over Xyrix, Leo declared, "This ends now." With Xyrix's defeat, the morale of the regime forces crumbled. The resistance fighters surged forward, overwhelming the enemy in a wave of liberation that swept through the stronghold. As the dust settled, Leo surveyed the liberated lands, keenly aware that while the battle was won, the war for freedom was just beginning. As the dust of battle settled, the air was tinged with a blend of triumph and mourning. Leo surveyed the aftermath, his heart heavy with the cost of their victory. The battlefield lay strewn with the fallen from both sides, a stark reminder of the price of freedom. In the quiet of the early dawn, Leo convened his leadership team for a debrief. The mood was somber as they reckoned the toll in lives and resources. It was during this meeting that Rika revealed the identity of the traitor. With a heavy heart, she handed Leo a datapad displaying intercepted communications. "It was Joran," she said quietly, her voice laden with betrayal. Joran, one of Leo's most trusted commanders, had been secretly feeding information to the regime, driven by a promise of power. Leo's expression hardened as he processed the news. The betrayal stung deeply, not merely due to the personal connection, but because of the additional lives it had cost. "We will address this according to our laws," Leo declared firmly, his resolve unwavering despite the pang of betrayal. "Justice will be served." The meeting concluded with a determination to fortify their ranks against further deceit and to honor those who had sacrificed everything for their cause. As the group dispersed, Leo approached the memorial wall where the names of the fallen were inscribed. He traced the names with his fingers, each one a vow remembered. "We will build a better future," Leo murmured to the silent dawn, "because they believed we could." The victory at the regime's stronghold marked a pivotal turn in the galaxy-wide struggle for freedom. News of the tyrant's downfall ignited uprisings on dozens of oppressed worlds, each flame fueled by the hope that the resistance had sparked. Back at the base, now teeming with activity and strategizing for the next phase of their campaign, Leo stood overlooking the training grounds. New recruits, inspired by the Resistance's recent victory, drilled under the vigilant eyes of seasoned fighters. The base had evolved from a clandestine refuge into a beacon of rebellion. Mara approached Leo, her presence a comforting constant. "You're thinking about the future," she remarked, standing beside him. "Yes," Leo responded, his eyes still on the new recruits. "The real work begins now. Liberating the galaxy entails more than winning battles. It's about what we construct in the void left by what we've dismantled." Mara nodded, grasping the gravity of his words. "And we'll build something remarkable, Leo." Together. Their conversation was momentarily disrupted by a stir at the camp's edge. A delegation of emissaries from various liberated planets had arrived, eager to align with Leo's forces and learn from their triumphs. As Leo and Mara moved toward the assembling crowd, they were greeted with salutes and cheers. Leo addressed the emissaries with a voice that carried both authority and hope. "Today we stand united not merely as combatants, but as architects of a new legacy," Leo proclaimed, his voice resonating with the assembly. "From the ruins of tyranny, we will forge a federation of free worlds, unified in diversity and strength."